Hey guys, thanks for joining me this week on For All Things Lexington. It's the only show dedicated to Lexington, South Carolina. Here, you'll hear me talk to people, groups, bands, and organizations about where to go, what to do, and who's who in and all around our beautiful Lake Murray. I'm your host, Angela Barrett, and this is For All Things Lexington. Hey guys, thanks for joining in again today. I have Jack Stuart, who is the economic developer for the town of Lexington. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So first, tell me what an economic developer is.
So there is a traditional version of one, and then there's kind of what I do. So, well, in simple terms, we develop the economy. So traditionally, economic development is going to be industrial recruitment and kind of spreading out the tax base a little bit of creating jobs within a community and having a place for people to work and helping the economy in that sense. So now how I do it being a little bit different. I work for the town of Lexington. So all of the industrial stuff for the most part is done by Lexington County, who has the ability to make those tax breaks and do things to recruit big companies and everything. And then since we have very few industrial zone properties within the town, I do a lot of retail recruitment. So we kind of took a step back from traditional economic development and said, most of our business licensing and tax base and everything like that is based on small businesses. So
Right.
What can we do to make a better environment for that and recruit people that run these small businesses? And also, just by the wayside, we ended up getting a better quality of life in that way as well. I think every time somebody hears somebody works for the town, they always say, well, we want this to be here, we want this, and then we want that. And it's not really a mechanism for us to make that happen, but my job kind of is able to step in and help recruit some of those people to say, hey, have you checked out Lexington yet?
Right.
So
Right.
economic development right now for the town of Lexington looks like retail recruitment and business retention. And
So when you say retail recruitment, you're talking like shops, restaurants, things of that nature.
Yep. So anywhere from talking with local restaurant groups, so that could be mom and pop shops, all the way to talking with big time retailers. So whether it's, Arby's or someone like that. So even down to, hey, we got a Wendy's in town and we know that other towns are getting theirs renovated. What do we have to do to get ours renovated? So,
Right.
Yeah. So all across the board.
Gotcha. Now, as far as I'm concerned, you can stick with the mom and pops, but that's
We're trending in that direction. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
kind of like how it's headed.
Yeah.
So I guess my definition of an economic developer would be to work towards the betterment and well-being of Lexington.
Mhm.
So you just kind of like you're the doctor, kind of keep the heartbeat of Lexington, try to keep, the good stuff coming in.
Right. Yeah. So that, yes, absolutely. And there's also, I would say there's a portion of my job as well that I would kind of classify as like community development. So there is a side of it that I feel like my job's ever evolving in that and task and what I can do and how I can interact with that. But a big portion of keeping our businesses happy is making sure their employees are happy. And that comes right down to making sure that they have places to go take their families, whether it's a park or make sure they have, an accessible main street they can go shop at and spend their money, which is developing our economy. So,
Right.
So there's a lot to it in that sense.
And so as far as the community development, now tell me what do you have to do with like the parks and things of that nature? Because my favorite thing on Facebook is Lexington needs a park. I'm like, you need to look at a map. We have a lot.
Right. Yeah. So directly with it, not as much. So I've been in my job for about 2.5 years. So the direct renovation of our gym in downtown is Virginia Hilton Park.
Right.
And the direct renovation with that, I didn't have too much heavy influence on doing that, but I'm a huge proponent for it, and that's exactly the direction we're trying to go with the community development side of things for creating that space. And that's not only does that make sense because it gives somewhere for people to go and have those third spaces for their families and everything, but it sticks a bunch of hungry people in downtown. So I look at it a little bit differently and think, okay, you've got families of, 5, 10 people, and they're all packing in down there. And then they go, I want something to eat. Let's go to Groucho's. It's across the street. Or let's go pick up O'Hara's and take it down into the park. Or what I do far too often is let me walk up to Barrio and get something and go eat lunch in the park for the day. So,
Right.
So that's kind of where we are with that. So I view it a little bit differently than the end user, I guess, but I'm also an end user of it, so it has to make sense.
Right.
That. But yeah, so that's kind of my interaction with that. Now that Virginia Hilton Park is finished, I think we're going back to the goal line and figuring out our vision plan, and I think there's going to be a lot more of that community development side of things.
Okay.
Of how does this interact with our community that's going to be spending the money and using these spaces and doing that and everything, and making sure that Lexington continues to be the beautiful, family-friendly place that we are right now.
Right.
So, yep.
Yeah. On the real estate side of things, people looking for a place, they're deciding between here and there, whatever, and they go, if you could sell up Lexington, what would you say? I said, it is a family-friendly town, period. There's no other word for it.
Yes.
You're just not going to find a nightclub.
Yeah.
You're not going to find any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's family friendly.
It is.
Period.
Yeah. And it's there's a huge testament to that. And I'm one of the people that did it as well. I moved away and went to school up in North Carolina. And then as soon as I got married and started having a family, I was like,
right back
to Lexington. There's no better place to do it. So
that's right.
Yeah, we've got everything here.
Right. So tell me, as far as when you're like, we'll take the hotel that's coming. Now, what part of that did you have?
So that was proposed before I was here. So I was right.
Had been going on a while.
But so a good portion of my job was acting as a liaison between the business community and then basically the government. So we have a lot of regulations, ordinances, and things like that are ever changing, and there's a lot of intricacies to those. So I hopefully am able to be someone that can help translate that to them, and then make sure that they get to the table with the right person. So there's oftentimes that people will call and say, well, I talked with this person and blah, 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 and everything. And I'm like, that's great. But you call somebody at Lexington County and they don't have anything to do with this. Right. So they may have told you an answer because they wanted you to, get off the phone. But yeah, so my job is interacting that way. So with that being said, with that project specifically as well, they were having some trouble with basically getting the look of it approved and getting what they want to do and how can we do this. We had this original plan and looking at the feasibility of that. This is what we have now. How can we bridge that gap between those two and everything and make sure everybody's happy? And then it's also my job to kind of look at it and say, okay, how does this fit our community? So I know that was the big hiccup, and I'm sure everybody saw it on Facebook that this is going to ruin downtown and that kind of stuff. So working with them to help them understand that, please, if you're going to do something this big, make sure it's worthwhile. This building could stand for 100 years like the rest of these buildings have, kind of thing.
Right.
So it's almost selling the town back to them as they sell us on what they've got as well. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Two of the things that I do like the idea of having a hotel on Main Street, and I love the fact of the way they've kept with the spirit of Main Street in that look, kind of the old architect, but not too old, but that quaint.
Yeah,
because we are. I mean, we're growing.
We are. Yeah.
Come down here, kind of like Walker Brewer and I were talking earlier. Come down here at night of an amphitheater, and people grumpy because they can't find a parking space. And I'm like, it's not Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's not that far. Just park 2 blocks and walk.
Yep.
But I do love that it has remained, and that's the goal, is to remain, to keep it like that.
Right.
The look of it.
Yeah, and some of the conversations that I had with them as well was, and this is, I've kind of toyed with this a little bit, but the buildings that are downtown, whenever people built those, they didn't anticipate those to stick around for 100 years.
Yeah.
They thought, I
Aren't
need
they
to
beautiful?
put up a general store, and it's going to go right here, and my neighbor looks like this, so I'm going to look like that too. And now here we are 100 years later, and we end up with all kinds of crazy. We're starting to figure out, okay, some of these buildings, there's obviously no regulations when these things are built as they're getting renovated, but with that charm that we've been used to for those 100 years,
Right.
we're now having to kind of start the second phase of we're building buildings that look like the neighbor, but have to really kind of give a style to what downtown's going to look like in the future. Because I don't think nobody planned downtown Lexington to look like it does.
No.
And it just have to be that way. Yeah.
Flourishing as it is.
Right. So as we kind of move forward with the designs of the new buildings and everything, we want to keep that look to it. But we do also want to kind of progress that as well as we move down the road, just because styles change. I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, did you always know you wanted to be in government?
No. I was advised not to be. So, I grew up, my dad was always in government, indirectly, I guess. And my mom was a school teacher, so technically she worked for the government as well.
Sure.
So, no, I started in the private sector, but I grew up here in Lexington, and I remember as a kid, my dad always saying, because he worked in Columbia, he worked in Blythewood, he worked for state agencies generally. And I remember him always saying that, pointing at even just the town of Lexington police officers going by, being like, if you're ever to do any of this is the place you want to do it. Because, the town of Lexington that treats their employees well, is especially amongst it. We go out in the state or anything like that, it's always. So if I was to do it anywhere, it was going to be here. And I've loved doing what I'm doing right now. So.
Yeah, well, good. So let's talk about some of the changes that, for the better, that maybe Lexington has done in the recent years.
Okay. Yeah. We've done a lot of changes. So.
Well, the amphitheater.
Yeah, the amphitheater was a huge one. And that was a lot of great foresight. I know that there was originally some kickback to that because, oh my gosh, what are you doing to downtown? Why are spending our tax money and stuff like that? What's going on with that? And it's turned into what it is today. I would give credit to, not sole credit, but a lot of credit to the amphitheater for revitalizing downtown. That's been huge. It gets, hotels say heads and beds, and stadiums say butts and seats. This gets people downtown. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, and
that normally wouldn't come.
Right. Yeah, and on a regular basis too. It's reoccurring. It's on Thursdays. It's on Fridays. It's on Saturdays. And then Saturday you've got the market. We've got this and that. And a lot of people don't realize this. It's a rentable space too. So you end up with people, all shapes and sizes and everything coming in downtown. And
because the addition of what I think of as its top, the pavilion. Mm-hmm. Now that's what you mean by the rentable space. You can rent.
You can that. You can rent the whole amphitheater as well. Yeah. You could. Yeah, people
singing or something.
Yeah, people host. We've had charity concerts and stuff like that people have done. You could. It's surprisingly affordable, especially if you are an in-town resident. That's a really good place to do it. So, yeah.
So, and then we just talked about the Virginia Hilton Park.
Virginia Hilton Park. Yeah.
Look, anything like it used to. It's phenomenal.
It is crazy. Yeah. So I grew up in that park. It's funny. My mom.
How many birthday parties did you have there?
At least 5.
Yeah. As I said, I saw at least 3 or 4.
Yeah. Yeah. And my mom actually, right before the grand opening, had sent me a picture of one of my birthday parties there, and it's so funny looking at what's still there, what's not there, and all that kind of stuff. It's unbelievable. Yeah. But huge renovation. It's changed everything. I've pulled numbers on that. It's one of the most visited parks in South.
Yeah, I think it was well missed. And I was one of the ones that were kind of like all the trees, but then again, I was one that was before it opened down there, kind of trying to help pick up, sticks or weeds or trash or whatever. And I was like, but there's still a lot here.
There's so much, yeah. And
where the trees and the cover, that was your only. And not to mention the splash pad, but that was your only reprieve from the heat. Was all those that tree covered park.
Yep. And it'll come back. So people were really worried about the trees, but I think we're net positive on the trees. We put over 1,000 trees back into the park.
Yeah.
So we had to reposition where they are. And
unfortunately, I think I was going to get that on Facebook. We didn't mean to start that hoo-ha, but I was a little upset about the trees, but then after going down there, this is before it opened. I was like, oh, but there really are a lot of them here.
Yep.
So I was glad about that.
Have you gone down a slide yet?
No,
You need to.
I was working that day.
You need to.
And now the splash pad. Yeah.
I'll show you which one's the fat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the very newest project that I know of anyway is the Old Mill Pond Trail.
Yes. So the Old Mill Pond Trail, that has been a dream for a while as well. So the trail was actually, a lot of people don't know this, the trail was planned well before the flood. So the 2015 flood, 2015 flood knocked out the dam and kind of took that project with it. So, but yes, that is huge. And that's, I love that project, especially from my position, because it gives us a nice continuous walking trail, which is nice.
Right.
Which is going to be, I think, a little bit under 1.5 miles, with big bridges going over the water and scenic views and stuff like that. And then what I really love is right at the end, you've got a brewery, you've got a restaurant, you've got a coffee shop.
That's
got
right.
everything right there.
There.
This is what people dream of. We've got luxury townhomes that are planned for one side. We've got apartments on the other side. And we've got a bunch of land on the other side that's available for development as well, potentially. So.
And when will that be finished, that project?
Soon. We're open. Yeah. So we are very close on the trail where we're sitting right now. I would say midsummer. We were hoping for early summer. There's been some permitting issues with getting the gate fixed and everything. So where we are right now is that pond is ready to fill. We're ready to move. We're ready to get it filled and everything. But we're just making sure that the gates are going to work and everything, because we don't want another flood again. So,
no.
I mean, to make sure it's going to be good. But I'm so excited for that pond to fill as well. There are so many people that live in Lexington now that weren't here in 2015 or didn't even think to remember, hey, let me take a snapshot in my mind of what this thing looks like. And I don't even remember what it looks like being full. I've seen pictures. I used to work down there and it was empty whenever I was working.
Well, I just remember now, there was like a ski practice area.
Yes.
Fine.
The water ski club. Yeah.
That's all I really remember about it.
The little sign was down there until recently that said, water ski hours or something on there. And everybody was like, what is that? It's a big empty mud pit. So,
right.
Yeah. But I'm so excited. That's going to be such a beautiful space and technically right here in downtown. It's on Main Street. So,
right.
And it's going to be walkable. So,
right. And I'm excited for all the restaurants and the brewery and the shops at the mill, because again, now you're going to take a little bit further down and give people a reason to be there as well.
Right.
Yeah. That's going to be pretty cool. Now, clear this up for me. My understanding is Lexington, the town of Lexington, could have been a city, but it's not.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So, there are several qualifications for being a city, and Lexington meets the qualifications for that. But at one point, it was put on the ballot for our citizens to decide: do you guys want to? Do we want to change into the city of Lexington? Do we want to be? And there's so many different names for stuff.
Sure.
Like if you go to Florida, there's villages and there's this and that
district.
Yeah, but we had built such a good brand around the town of Lexington, and I think that people are so used to that, and I love it as well. I think it really, and it sounds a little cocky, but I love putting in an email just the town.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people know what we're talking about. So
because there's not many that have kept the town.
Right. Yeah. So, and it makes.
I think it helps us keep that point.
It does. Yeah.
Family moving.
And it's not very often that just in the name of something that you can get that feeling of size and that feeling of just like, I don't know, to me, and especially growing up here, it's like I can think of Main Street when I think of the town.
Right.
Just, the city of Lexington.
So, right.
Yeah. And also helps us out on Facebook and stuff like that as well. People put in the town of Lexington. We're not competing with the city of Lexington, Kentucky.
Right.
In that sense. So because we're the town.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So it works out well.
Now, why do you think that the voters? I mean, because it was the voters. I was not living in the town, so I didn't get to vote. However, Why do you think? I mean, what do you think? For the reasons that you and I just talked about, or
I think so. Yeah, I think that. I mean, if I was to cast a vote today, I would say to consider me the town. Yeah. I think it gives us that sense of, it's a lot better. It's more of a sense of community.
Yeah.
I think you lose a little bit of that with the city, and at the end of the day, we were established as a farming town, and we're not a farming city. That sounds so. Yeah, and I think anybody can tell by our accents that we're not a city. So we're near one. Yeah,
Right.
but but we're the town. So yeah, I think that kind of solidified that. But yeah, and we're not looking back. It would cost too much money to change now.
Oh yeah.
You'd have to reprint everything, and it's
Yeah, and I mean, I'm like you. If I was given a choice to vote today, I would still keep it the town too. Again, I think that's what helps us keep the quaint, family-oriented town that we are.
Right.
You know, it would be hard to say family-oriented city.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem sound right.
Yeah. A lot of people have to put a tagline behind their name, different cities and stuff like that. And with us, I feel like we can just say the town of Lexington,
Right.
and you instantly.
I like just
That's
the
what
town.
it is. So
I'm gonna start using that. I'm stealing
the town.
it.
Caffeine tea.
So you have been here at the government, what, about 2.5 years?
2.5 years.
Leaving the
Yep.
private sector. And you're originally from here. You went to school in North Carolina?
Yeah, I went to a little school called Lenoir University. It's in Hickory, North Carolina, furniture capital.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I've ran cross country in high school and got recruited to go up there and run.
Oh, nice.
Thing in the mountains. I thought I wanted to live in the mountains at the time. Then it snowed. And I said, "Oh,
And it was cold?
yeah, oh my gosh, I only have 3 years left." So did that, and then stayed up there for a couple of years. I worked in furniture for a little while. That's what you do when you live in Hickory.
Well, what else do you do?
Yeah. And then COVID happened.
Right.
Came on home.
Right. What has been, since I mean, I know it's been 2.5 years, but what's been the most rewarding thing that you have been able to say, I was a part of that?
There's a couple. I think the most recent one, I created the logo for Virginia Hilton Park.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It's outside my job description, but that's the world that I came from. I came from corporate marketing. So,
Right.
And we were toying around with it, and we were getting all the stuff branded and ready for the park and everything. We realized that the logo that we had, didn't have much of an identity to it. And I'm big on that. And especially with me harping about the town.
Right.
So I looked at it and we put some thought into it, and we actually worked with our mayor as well, Mayor Hazel Livingston, and looking at her, because she had such an influence on the recreation of that park,
right.
and she had so much influence from Miss Virginia Hilton when she originally got on council with that as well. And then one of her best friends that is memorialized in that park, Pat Jeffcoat as well. So we were looking at that and putting all these different things together, and I was able to, with the team, create this logo that has an azalea in it that meant so much to Miss Pat Jeffcoat and means so much to Hazel Livingston with that as well. So it was great to be able to pull that together, and so that was very, very rewarding. And then my other one was one of my first wins. When I was brought on board, the joke was we need a steakhouse, and everybody, all the way from everybody on council to everybody on Facebook, right off the bat said, "Where's our steakhouse? We need a steakhouse. We need a steakhouse." So I went after it, and I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea how to do what I was doing, but I was used to talking to businesses, so I just started the job, and I was actually going to a trade show out in Las Vegas to recruit for the town, to bring some businesses here, and I sat right next to the guy I needed to talk to on the plane on the way there.
Oh, wow.
So he got a nice 4-hour talk about the town of Lexington and everything to do with that. And they had kind of already been looking in the area, but he definitely knew, hey, after I get off this plane, my team's got to circle that area and take a look at it. So, yeah, I don't sign contracts. I don't do anything like that, but
Sure.
I get people to look at our area, and we've got an Outback Steakhouse that's going to open up pretty soon. So
Yeah, I hear
We're
people are
excited.
really, really excited about that. That's pretty cool. And that's going to be over there, I guess, Walmart, Chick-fil-A area on the other side of the road.
yes, it's going to be what was previously O'Charlie's.
So Charlie's.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, what do you see? What's next for Lexington? What's the whisper in the background? Where we're headed? Feel it.
Whisper in the background. We've got a lot of things going on. As you know, we're growing. So, and I think exactly what you said earlier with, you expressed, hey, we want more mom and pop shops. And I could not agree more. So, as we grow, we don't want to lose our identity. So, with that, it's, we're hoping to bring in local developers and local restaurants and things like that, and kind of create and keep that sense to that. So, but the next step for this is going to be just kind of building off of what we have. So we have a beautiful downtown. We have a lot of vacant space in downtown. We don't have vacant buildings, but we have area to build new buildings. So we have that. We also have some of our secondary markets and things like that. As you head out the west side of town, there's some land. As you head out, up towards Target,
much.
there's not much. No, there's very
They
little.
aren't building anymore.
Right. Yeah. And so, but making sure that the right things go there, the things that people want, the things people need, and the things that our community needs as well. So, and
I could tell you what we
where we're headed.
don't need, not on air though.
Yeah, just put it on Facebook like everybody else.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So right now, I mean, just finishing up the Virginia Hilton Park and all of that, there's not really any, and I guess the hotel is getting ready to be started.
Mhm.
No other big projects that you can speak of, at least.
So I think that there's a want and a need for, now that we've created these hubs. So we have Virginia Hilton Park,
Right.
we have Gibson Pond, and we have the Old Mill Pond, and we've got all these different parks and pieces and things like that. I think that and I know that council has made this a priority as well, to maybe find a park location that isn't stuck in downtown necessarily, because we're all kind of tight right here,
Right.
which is great. It's walkable, it's awesome, but
Right.
we're bigger than that. So can we find another space somewhere else? And then also, how do we connect these? So I'm big on that. The Swamp Rabbit Trail that's up in Greenville, everything with that. I'm wearing right now Spartanburg, the Burger Trail
Yeah.
dock
like
that I was
that.
given at an event that I went to. But yeah, how do we create that and connect these so that you can, hop on a bike and go between the parks and take your kids with you, and get on a bike on one side of town, park your car, get on a bike and go to a park and go walk around and go grab a beer and then go grab food and go back to your car. So
Yeah.
how do we do that? So I think that's kind of our next step.
that'd be-
We're finally at that growth point to where we could, I think, start to make that a reality. And even if it's not a reality today, 20 years from now it could be. So we need to plan accordingly.
I'll be really old by then. Let's make that timeline a little bit shorter.
We'll start with the Old Mill Trail. How about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
that's great. That's great. There was something else I was going to ask you, and I started thinking about how old I'd be when that project was finished. I can't remember it. It'll come to me right after you leave.
So if you're not going to tell me what you don't want in town, what do you want? That's all.
Oh, again, I really, my whole thing has always been, like the locally owned restaurants and shops and things of that. I mean, sure, do we need, bigger, like your Walmarts and things of that nature? Sure, I guess everybody needs those.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think to keep Lexington, like you said, the way it is, I mean, it's fabulous to walk in and know it's locally owned and some of it locally farmed. And,
Right.
The same with some of your boutiques. I mean, you're helping an individual that could be in the next neighborhood, could be in your neighborhood, depending on how big it is. You don't know.
Right.
You're helping somebody there. So has always been my main thing. Is just, I hope that it stays and that
local.
Yeah,
Yep.
keep it here, keep it local.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what we need, and that helps everybody from Because, I mean, if you think about it, if you're walking into a boutique in downtown versus walking into Target to go, buy the same thing pretty much, it goes so much further. You're paying for the dance lessons of, for the daughter of the lady that owns the boutique or something like that. So there's so much more to that. And that's how the economics work.
Yes.
So.
And I love it. Well, you're doing a great job, and thanks so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me today, and I hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or know someone you'd like to see on the show, contact me at forallthingslexington.com. That's the number 4, allthingslexington.com.
And by Angela Barrett at HomeMattersSC.com. Building on what matters to you.